Ever made a judgment of someone only to see a completely new light sometime after? Today, we're going to go over how our perceptions of characters can be changed in its entirety, as well as how this backstory was one of, if not the most, emotionally impactful of the entire series. Initially, Kuma was introduced as a terrifying, strong antagonist, one that was not to be messed with and had unfathomable strength. There was no emotion in his tone, and it didn't look like he had a shred of empathy. Nothing mattered to him other than his orders, and he would stop at nothing to get them done, eradicating anything in his path. For Bonney, we were introduced to a selfish, gluttonous woman who only cared about eating as much food as she could, with a crew that served her every whim. What could possibly justify this lack of awareness for others and simply following her own desires? This backstory alone answers the decade-long questions we've had about both of them. Those of you who have watched Naruto will have seen a similar scenario with Itachi, but One Piece brings it to a whole new level. Let's get right into it. We see Kuma as a child in terrible conditions alongside his family, who were enslaved by the celestial dragons just because of their buccaneer race. Despite this, his father always took a positive light, introducing him to the ways of Nika, which we'll touch upon later. While doing so, Kuma's father was killed before his very own eyes, something that would be traumatic for anyone, let alone a child. This already shows the discrimination and heartbreak Kuma had to endure from a young age. We may be fortunate enough to live in a time where human rights and equality are a given, but this wasn't the case for Kuma. How would you feel if you were in his shoes? Do you think you could bear the weight of his suffering? We then see the God Valley incident where the celestial dragons are using the locals for their own entertainment in their rabbit hunt. They're not rabbits, they're humans. This is where Kuma meets Ivankov and Ginny, one a gateway to freedom and the other to love. This is also where he acquires his devil fruit, the paw fruit. These events aren't just for the sake of having a sad backstory. They have meaning and teach important lessons about the extent of both sides of human nature. Sometime after, we see an example of him using his devil fruit to take on the pain of the elderly in the Sorbet Kingdom. He made it look to the elderly that he had the ability to heal them with no setbacks, because he didn't want them to feel guilty for the pain he was enduring on their behalf. It shows the selfless nature that he had despite the horrible circumstances he grew up with. It shows that circumstances don't define your character, and if you're pure at heart, then the actions of evil aren't necessarily always strong enough to taint that. We then see Kuma join the Revolutionary Army, where he finds his true purpose in life. He had been taught the ways of Nika by his father, and how he would strive towards liberation wherever he went, and Kuma wanted to follow suit. He knew this was the place where he could accomplish that, and where his desires and his path aligned. After all the pain and suffering he had gone through, it was definitely heartwarming to see at least something positive happen in his life. He really deserved it. It was at this point that his relationship with Ginny developed and she even proposed, to which Kuma declined as he didn't want her to face the same level of suffering that his mother did for being with the buccaneer. Again developing on his selfless nature, he was willing to sacrifice his own happiness for the sake of another. And despite that, Ginny still met a tragic fate, which showed the extreme levels of irony Kuma had to face. Finally, we had the introduction of Bonney in the flashback, the daughter Ginny left behind. Her dying wish to Kuma was to take care of her. Kuma's extreme love for Ginny led him to bond with Bonney in one of the closest relationships any father could have with their child, and led to the following sacrifices he'd make. As we know, Ginny suffered from the sapphire scale disease, and Bonney unfortunately inherited the same fate, but Kuma stopped at nothing to find a way to cure her. His promise to Ginny was his utmost priority, and he truly cared for and loved Bonney, resulting in him abandoning his own dream and path of continuing to be in the Revolutionary Army. After much searching, Kuma finally found a way to cure Bonney by meeting Vegapunk, in exchange for transforming his body into a living weapon. Initially a trivial trade for saving his beloved daughter's life, but it was the interference of Saint Saturn that made this a truly deep sacrifice. Saturn insisted that in order for this to go through, he must join the Shichibukai, lose his free will as a mindless pacifista, and never see Bonney again. To a father that loved his daughter so much, never being able to see her again, nor even be able to reflect on the memories they had together, would be a tough decision to make and a great sacrifice. but the amazing part is how easily Kuma accepted it. He smiled with relief, as he was worried that Saturn's demands was something he couldn't do, and that Bonney wouldn't be saved. To those of you who've seen the latest season of Squid Game, you may have struggled to relate to a character who sacrificed their life for a child, especially that of a stranger you just met. Me personally, I would have gone for a... However, with Kuma, we can clearly see his reasoning for his sacrifice, both due to his endless love and his selfless nature. Finally, we get to Bonney. Parting with her father, whom she loved dearly, she was promised he would send her letters regularly, but was heartbroken when she didn't receive any, not even on her birthday. Little did she know that the agent in charge of her was intercepting every single one behind her back. Little did she know that Kuma said he loved her in every single letter, as Kuma wanted to say as much as he could before losing his free will. The cruelty and lack of empathy from the members of the world government showed what kind of justice this world was being governed by. It makes you question, are the pirates really the bad guys when we have such people at the top? It's at this point that the head of the village, Connie, realized what was going on and helped her escape. Before we get into that, at what point did you notice Connie's outfit? I was watching the flashback and thinking to myself how familiar it looked, only for it to connect right back to Bonnie's introduction. After all this time, we finally found out how she got that outfit, and also how she got some of her crew. Gyogyo, Tots, and Potato were all from the village Bonney was in. They helped her escape in her disguise and accompanied her in her journey. That seemingly selfish woman, with no manners and a lack of care for others, was simply a little girl having the time of her life out on sea. Who can blame her now? It's backstories like these that make the events of the present so much more impactful. Both Bonney and Kuma's actions from the present day carry that much more weight from their emotions. And if you take a look at the title of the chapter, it was called Weight of Memory. Exactly what was displayed. This is the message Oda wanted to convey. This is what gives meaning and depth to a character. We now understand that Kuma's actions towards Luffy and his crew were because he saw Nika, the warrior of liberation, within him when he saw him in the flashback. Since he was a child, he was taught by his beloved father about the importance and significance of Nika, and Kuma never strayed from his upbringing. Hopefully now you can see that with this backstory, One Piece has taught us the crucial lesson of not judging a book by its cover, something we've all heard, but perhaps not grasped the depth of. If this video helped enlighten you in some way, or at least caught your interest, then please leave a like, comment what you'd like to see, and subscribe for more anime content. Take care and peace.